What's up, everybody? Matt from Headwaters Adventure Company. I'm sorry I missed you guys last week. Just didn't quite work out. But we're here this week, and our fishing team has fished a number of different lakes. And depending on what lake you're fishing, really is going to dictate the amount of fish you catch and the bite you're getting. It's pretty drastic from one place to another. I know a couple of lakes that were fished, you can catch quite a few fish. Some people even having 100 fish days. And then the lake that I ended up fishing and that one of my coworkers ended up fishing, you had a really tough time just to get a bite. I caught two when I was out, and my coworker got a couple of bites and didn't connect. So very drastic depending on where you are and depending on what your water temperature. There's so much variation right now that you kind of got to take your best whack at it because you don't know where's going to be good per se, especially at your lakes where you're going to have better quality and not quantity. And depending on your water temperature, the stage that the fish are in right now is all over the place. There's a lot of fish that have spawned. There's fry in the water. There's baby bass in the water. So on those lakes, you're going to be fishing and throwing different presentation than you would be at some of the lakes where they're still pre-spawn and getting ready and still feeding up. And that's mainly going to be dictated by water temperature. But we'll get into it with some of the stuff that my coworker did. So Whiskeytown is very, very clear right now. Water's at 67.5 degrees, and there's fry. So a lot of those fish have already spawned, and there's a lot of little baby bass around, as well as some bigger ones, which I don't know if they were very, very early spawners from this season and hatched early, or if they're fish from last year that, didn't grow too much and are, still waiting to feed up and get bigger. But either way, there's little fish and there's slightly bigger fish, maybe 4 inches. Whiskeytown specifically, that being a very clear lake, and the way that the fish see you before they see them, the bite's tough. Our coworker Justin, he didn't catch any out there. He did get a few bites. He said they're in the coves and they're holding around the dead trees in the water. And if you know Whiskeytown, you know where dead trees are and where coves are at. In the past, I've done very well on glide baits there to get some of those cruising fish to commit. The other thing that you can do is sit as far back away from them as you can and make accurate long casts with small baits. Where I was fishing, we were doing a lot of weightless lures, whether it was a weightless Senko, weightless brush hog, and weightless lizards. So as far as finesse goes, small baits, weightless baits, something that they have they can look at for a long period of time, and that's going to be an easy meal for them, or something big enough to spike their curiosity and get them away from where they're hanging out or pull those cruisers' attention. They're not always going to eat it, but sometimes you can get lucky and get them to react after they lock in and start following it. But the water, like I said, is clear, 67. There's fish everywhere to be caught. It's just a matter of catching them. Whiskeytown's always tough. If you live around here, if you fish it, you know that a good day on Whiskeytown is few and far between just because those fish are stingy. You can definitely do it. My buddy last year caught 32 fish his first time out there, which is insane. I've never done that. So I know a lot of people, if I get 5 bites there, I'm pretty happy. But the fish, quality fish. So definitely go out there and give it a shot. Sooner or later, one of those fish is going to slip up and you're going to have a big spot on your hands. I have some of these things pulled out. So weightless fishing, the weightless trick worm is a great way to go for finesse fishing. It is not the most exciting. It does get bit. Weightless brush hog is another way to go. There's not a lot of action on the fall, but when you move it, those tails are going to kick. And again, when it does fall, it's moving very, very slowly so they can't eat it. The other thing is a 6-inch zoom lizard in a weightless. Again, you're doing maybe a 2-aught, maybe a 3-aught on something like that. It falls incredibly slow. It doesn't really wiggle much while it's falling. It just falls. But when you move it, it's going to kick. Don't think of a lizard as a lizard. It is a worm that has 5 appendages that wiggle, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a tail. So it's just basically a speed worm. But fish it very, very slowly. Again, not the most fun, but it does work. Especially at Whiskeytown, I highly recommend trying this out. I grabbed the wrong bag. But baby bass colored Senkos. The big forage in Whiskeytown, besides the kokanee, is the baby bass and the bluegill. And after they hatch, and with all the small fish around, baby bass is a phenomenal color over there because one, it's a bit like a translucent green with some gold flake, so it's a very natural color already. Plus, that's what they eat a lot of. So whether you wacky rig it weightless, Texas rig it weightless, put a small weight on it and flip it into the trees, because flipping at Whiskeytown does work incredibly well. Or if you're going to Nico rig it, which I've had a lot of luck with as well. So that's something to try. And then your hula grub, which again, I would Texas rig and I would be flipping that into the trees, but again, in that baby bass color. It's a very natural color and it's something that you should be able to get bites on. Whiskeytown's tough. I never tell people 100%, oh, go throw this and you're going to catch fish. It's not that kind of lake. It's tough, but the rewards are really nice. The fish are very, very nice. You can catch some giant spots, and there's actually some big largemouth and very nice smallmouth in there too. I would say 9 times out of 10, throw plastics. It's going to be small swim baits, weightless worms, small worms, finesse fishing 9 times out of 10, or go the opposite way and go throw something big. The clarity is great, so you can pull fish from a long distance with a big bait. Whether they hit it or not is a different story, but you're going to at least see them get followers. From that, fishing in Shasta, I didn't get a water temperature, but there's fish definitely eating at Shasta, and they are really relating to shade. It's been hot out. Those fish want to sit directly in the sun. They can get sunburnt just like us. You know, it's not good for your eyes, so they're going to hang out in those shady spots. It's an ambush point, and they get to stay out of the heat in the heat of the day. So throw around those areas. Small swim baits, plastics, any of the stuff that I've just previously talked about will work very, very well at Shasta. Definitely throw those small swim baits over there as well. And then one of my go-to colors over there is this clear black flake Senko. Again, throw it weightless or Texas rig, depending on the kind of structure you're around. But that specific color Senko, I do very, very well on at Shasta. I guess it's a shad look. I don't know, but they hands down eat it. The other thing that you could do at Shasta right now, because there are fish around cover, if it's something that you could bump, a square bill is a great option. This is just one of the KVD 1.5s, and it's not one to rotate in there, but that is an awesome little bait. Great one to throw. Also jerk baits. Depending on your water clarity, kind of dictate your color. In one of the creeks around here, with the snow runoff, they're running a little higher, a little darker. I've been catching fish on a chartreuse 1.5. It's a fun bite, but really dictate your square bill by watercolor. If you have something to bounce it or bang it off of, throw a square bill, especially if you've got a breeze, especially if you know those fish are aggressive. It's a fun way to catch them. And Shasta and a lot of the other places around here, you can do that. You could probably do it at Whiskeytown. I don't think it's as consistent of a bite. The other thing that you could do really with the fish when they're actively feeding, the spinner bait's a great way to go. And because there's timer keeps disconnecting. I don't know what that looks like in the video, but stuff like the Berkeley Chapo, especially the smaller one. We've got the Rover, which is an awesome walking bait. Start throwing stuff like that, especially early morning. Top water bite should be there. There's tons and tons of cover in the water to throw this stuff around. You could throw it in open water. The fish are aggressive. The fish are feeding, whether they're pre-spawn or post-spawn. The fish that Justin caught at Shasta were post-spawn. They were very skinny. You can see that their bellies were bigger, but they're definitely spawned out, and there's fry over at Shasta as well. So depending on where you go, very, very different stuff. I was fishing over at Lake Shastina, which it was the first time I had been there, and we were catching them on weightless lures. I tried a bunch of stuff. There was big boulders. There's rocks everywhere. If you've watched this before, I like jigs. I was like, perfect. I'm going to hammer them on jigs. Could not get a bite, and I broke off quite a few lures. The weightless was the way to go. They were anywhere from 0 to 10 feet, I would say. And one of the people that I was fishing with, Jeff, he caught 3 really nice fish, all on weightless lizards. And like I said, they don't have a lot of action when they fall. It's really, you let them get down and you drag them, all of their appendages move, and then they stop moving, and those fish have a long time to look at it and a long time to decide if they want to eat it. And it's an easy meal. I was throwing a Senko. I caught 2. He caught 3. I don't know that it mattered that much. I think the big thing is the fall and a very slow moving presentation, because I tried a lot of different things and I could not get a bite on anything else. So in that situation, if you're not getting bit, slow down, go weightless, especially if you've seen a few fish and you know the depth that they're at. It's not the most fun fishing, but if you want to get bit and catch some fish and have some fun, go weightless, go small. And a 6-inch worm and a 5-inch Senko is not terribly small bait. It casts well, but just fish slow. With that being said, they were all quality fish. The water temperature was 64 degrees over there. It was a really cool lake, somewhere I'd like to explore a lot more, but the fish were pre-spawn. They were all fat, full of eggs, and I didn't see any beds. There were some fish crews in the shallows, but it was obviously very different than some of these other lakes. James Robertson got out to Oroville, and he had 64-degree water. He had 5 to 10 foot water clarity, stained water. He said it's a little bit brownish, but he caught fish on a crankbait, something like this. And, really match your crankbait to your depth. If you're fishing right on shore to maybe 4 feet or so and a structure, square bill's an awesome choice. There's also deeper diving crankbaits, mid-diving crankbaits. We got a lot of the Rapalas and some of the Spros in here that are really good. But he caught them on a white crankbait. He caught some on jerkbaits as well. That is a pearl color, oyster color, which is a great shad color bait, especially if you've got any overcast weather, clouds, shade, chop on the water. But in there, they eat a lot of pond smelt over at Oroville, but that's a good color, as well as that's the Pro Blue, which is a translucent blue. So he was catching them on crankbaits and jerkbaits, which is a great way to fish. And then when they came across trees, or if you were target fishing, they were throwing wacky rig Senkos, which seems to be the theme when you have targets. Throw with a Senko. The Senko is great. You don't want to fish vast stretches of water with it because it is very slow. If you see a boulder, if you see a tree, if there's one stick sticking out and there's nothing else around it, throw a Senko at it. It falls very slow. If a fish is there, it's got a long time to decide. It looks very natural. It's a very finesse approach that hands down works. You'll catch 10 inchers, you'll catch 10 pounders. So whatever fish is there, they just eat a Senko. They caught 16 fish while they were out, and it was an electric shad color Senko that they were throwing. A bit different than this. I believe we've got the electric shad here as well, but something, more bait fish colored. He said some of the people out there are having 100 fish days. So if you do want to get out and just put a hammer on some fish, I definitely recommend Oroville or Shasta right now. The quantity is there. You could definitely catch quality fish out of both. I have a hard time finding them. I forgot weightless worms. Don't forget your pinks. If you have dirtier watercolor, same idea. If they're stingy but the water's dirty, pinks and bright colors are going to do very well in that weightless presentation. But yeah, if you want to catch fish right now, Shasta and Oroville are both great, especially if you're new to fishing, just need to get a bite, gain some confidence and some lures. Those are both great places to diversify your skill set. James also fished another lake who he will not tell me the name, but it had 30 plus feet of visibility. It was 57 degrees water. There was cruisers in 15 to 20 feet. The fish would follow crankbaits, deeper crankbaits, but they couldn't catch them on that. They got one bass on a drop shot that has a dong from Megabass. It's a small drop shot minnow. And I see there are a handful of guys on here. Feel free to comment. I love interacting with you guys. But the big thing at this lake that they will not say is their trout were munching. One of the guys caught 30 trout and one bass. They caught one bass and a handful of trout. So the trout bite was definitely on. So some of these different higher elevation lakes, especially if you're around here, there's tons of small water that doesn't get utilized as much as some of these bigger lakes do. So if you've got the chance, especially if you're on a kayak or have a small boat, go check out some of these smaller lakes. They can be very rewarding. There's some big fish in there, and there's just some untouched stuff. And the less a fish sees baits, more likely you are to catch them, more likely they are to be aggressive. I was fishing some of the creeks and ponds around here this last week. They have risen with the snow runoff. They're moving fast, so do be careful. Wear your life jacket if you're on the water, just in case. But the fishing can be very good, especially with the water running. Moving those faster baits like a square bill is something that can get them to react because they have a split second to decide if they're going to bite or not. So doing something that's very visible like that chartreuse, which this is one of my favorite colors, square bills in stained or dirty water if you have cover. So I was throwing that, and then I was flipping a jig. Again, the water's moving so fast that if you're flipping a jig, I was doing a half ounce. Those fish have to react. It's not this slow dragging jig bite. It's going to drop in front of their face, and they're going to have to eat it or not. So especially me being in a kayak, I'm flipping and I'm getting pushed back by current. I basically let it fall, hit the bottom, and I watch my line. If I don't get bit there, I shake it, I pop it, let it hit the bottom again, and then I reel it in and recast, because you're moving away from your targets very, very quickly. It's not something you would sit there and fish very efficiently. If you're in a boat, you can. There's plenty of fishing to be bass fishing to be done on the Sac River. If you've got a jet boat and a trolling motor, it can be phenomenal. And then a lot of those inlets have some really, really nice fish, smallmouth, largemouth, and spotted bass. If you go down lower, the striped bass fishing is very good right now as well. So just think about that. If you got fast moving water, those fish need to be quick on the bite. So throw something quick, whether that be how you fish a jig or something moving, spinner baits, chatter baits, things like that. So if nobody's got any questions, that's all. So our next meetup is going to be at Lake Almanor at the end of the month. I believe it's the 28th. So please do come hang out with us. We had 5 people at the last one at Clear Lake, and it was basically a bed fishing seminar, which is my favorite way to fish. And I know a lot of the guys learned a lot about bed fishing. A lot of the guys that were there, me and James had a pretty good handle on the bed fishing, but the other guys were new to it or hadn't done it much. And so hopefully at this next one at Almanor, the smallmouth will still be spawning. The water still should be cold. We might miss it, but post-spawn is great too, because they're feeding up, trying to replace the food and the energy that they've lost. So they should still be eating well. Over at Almanor, there's a healthy population of trout and Sacramento perch, which I've never caught one, and I'd be very excited to. But all those are going to be bait fish eaters. Brown trout, they'll eat anything. You can catch them on a jig, you can catch them on a Kitech, you can catch them on a crankbait, jerkbait, Senko. Same thing with the smallmouth. And as far as the Sacramento perch goes, it is a sunfish that has a larger mouth like a crappie. So same thing. You know, if you get in front of the right one that's aggressive, you could definitely catch them as well. I'm very excited for that. Have not fished that lake before, and it should be fun. So come on out if you have the time. Like I said, it's the 28th. I will give more details soon, or check out our website on our calendar. Where are we launching from? I would have to look up the launch, but it's on the northeast side of the lake. There's a flat with stump fields over there. I would, again, have to look at the launch, but I'm hoping that stump field is going to be littered with beds on the stumps. So that should be a lot of fun. And yeah, that's about it. That's what I got for you. Get out there, catch some fish, depending on where you go. Don't get disappointed if the fishing's tough. That's just part of being out there. You can't catch them every day, but you can figure them out, hopefully get a few bites, and do better the next day. And especially at some of these lakes that have super high populations of spotted bass, those fish are competing. If you need to gain confidence in a lure, it's a great place to go. Oroville, Shasta. There's just so many fish, and they're so aggressive, and they need to feed, that you can catch them on a wide range of stuff. So you can really learn how to dial in a certain technique. So, because there's a lot of different things you could do to catch them, and confidence is king. If you're confident and you know you can catch them, you'll be confident even when it's not quite as good as of a bite at other lakes on other areas. You could try to duplicate it. So with that being said, can't wait to see you guys. I'll let you know more next week. Yeah, we'll get out there and go fish. Don't know where, don't know how, but it'll be fun. So we'll see you. Stay fishy, my friends.